The girl didn't say anything and stared at her feet. Was she just imagining it, or had this guy seriously tried to flirt with her? How first impressions can be deceiving. Or are all aristocrats in such a mood? I really don't care, he should just leave me alone and disappear. But the young man stayed, and after a few seconds of silence he spoke again. Why so sad, huh? Is everything alright with you? Cheyenne raised her head again and looked at him. She really hadn't expected that. So this guy had noticed that she wasn't feeling well, and yet he had tried to flirt with her. What's wrong with the world? But the girl didn't feel like talking. I'm fine. I don't want to be rude, so thank you for caring about me, but please, just leave me alone. Her counterpart tilted his head and did not make the slightest attempt to leave. Well, if a girl who is doing well looks like that, I must have missed something. Cheyenne's request to leave her alone the young man did not even respond to. On the contrary, he even took a few steps towards her and, with some distance, sat down next to her on the small wooden staircase. The girl looked at him and perceived his smell, a strong scent of flowers mixed with that of a fir forest and pine cones. The image of a frozen small lake surrounded by ice-covered flowers in the middle of a snow-covered fir forest came to her mind. The idea was strong, clear, and beautiful. He turned back to Cheyenne. What happened? You don't live in this village, am I right? His previously cheerful, serene attitude turned into a compassionate one. The girl gave herself up and sighed. For better or worse, she would have to talk to him, knowing that he wouldn't just leave like that. Quietly, she gave him an answer. No, I'm not from here. The young man nodded, and Cheyenne lowered her head. Oh, how rude of me. I haven't even introduced myself to you. My name is Glacio, and what is the name of the beautiful angel next to me? He closed his eyes halfway and smiled a little. He can't be serious, what's wrong with him? She would have liked to roll her eyes now, but she didn't. If by beautiful angel you mean me, my name is Cheyenne. Nice to meet you, sweetie. And you don't need to speak so formally, we don't need that. Glacio closed his eyes and grinned, so he couldn't see the girl's annoyed look. Now also, sweetie? Do these compliments work for other girls? And I am always said to be naive. At least the young man managed to distract Cheyenne from her grief, and somehow she felt a little better since he was around her. Whether it was really because of this guy or simply because she wasn't alone at the moment, she couldn't say. Cheyenne liked his suggestion and accepted it, because she found it difficult to speak so formally and politely with someone like him anyway. Glacio opened his eyes again. He looked at Falconheart's leg, which the stallion had still lifted up in the air a little bit. The girl followed his gaze. He stood up and walked closer to the big brown horse to take a closer look at the foot. Is this your horse? The leg doesn't necessarily look very healthy. Before Cheyenne could say anything, her new acquaintance was already looking at Adokas. His gaze briefly stopped at the fairy wolf and he seemed surprised. He examined the wounds on the silver wolf's body and finally looked at the girl's neck and hands. So, I would be very interested to know what happened to you, but I doubt you will tell me just like that. Embarrassed, Cheyenne avoided his gaze. Glacio seemed to feel confirmed in his suspicions, but he would certainly bring up this topic again later. Cheyenne knew that. He continued to speak. And isn't this a fairy wolf? Where did you find such a rare animal? Above all, how did you manage to keep it by your side? A fair question. Fairy wolves have been the rarest animals in the world since dragons became extinct, and they would just trust one person in their entire lives if they have associated with humans at all. But if this is the case, they stayed with the confidence of their choice all their lives and did not leave their side. Cheyenne knew all this and therefore was very proud and happy to have Arukas with her. I found him buried under snow a few years ago in winter as a little puppy. He was close to death, so I took him home and nursed him back to health. Then he apparently decided to spend the rest of his life by my side. As if the fairy wolf knew he was being talked about, he stood up and happily pressed himself against Cheyenne. She hugged him and stroked his fluffy fur. But as soon as the girl touched some of the wounds, she had a guilty conscience again. Arukas, you too, Falconheart. I'm so sorry for what happened. She looked at the injuries of both animals and Glacio crouched down in front of her. He looked at the girl sympathetically. I'll make you an offer, Dolly. You seem to be quite desperate, so I want to be your savior in need and help you. But in return... He looked deep into Cheyenne's eyes, and the way he said it, she almost expected him to demand something from her for his help that she didn't want or couldn't. But as he continued talking, she relaxed and was even a little relieved. In return, I expect you to tell me what happened to you. The girl was reluctant to admit it, but at the moment she was happy about any help and would not hesitate to accept it. All she would have to do is tell what happened yesterday. She really hoped that she could do it. Cheyenne agreed. All right, I agree. If you can help me, I'll tell you what happened yesterday. But that's all I can give you for your help. I have no money. She suspected, however, that Glacio had more than enough of that anyway, the way he looked. She was all the more surprised when his answer came. Hey, Angel, when I say I just want to hear your story, I mean it. Don't worry, I'm just curious and want to help pretty girls in need. By the way, I too don't have any money right now, so you're not alone. Believe me, you can get along well without it. So, not a nobleman after all? I was so sure. But I don't really like the way he said the last sentence. What does he mean by that? Glacio turned to Cheyenne's wounds. Well, first of all, I'll take care of your wounds on your hands and neck. Without them, you're sure to be even more stunning than you already are. You can trust me, I am a healer. Cheyenne opened her eyes wide and opened her mouth a little in surprise. A healer? Incredible! I've never seen one before. Healers were people who could cast healing spells. The ability to control those spells was even rarer than fairy wolves and only given in very, very few people in the world. There should also be elves who supposedly differed from humans only by their ears and cleverness, and it's rumored that they would be even more gifted in dealing with healing magic. Apparently, it took enormous intelligence to cast healing spells. In addition, it was said that it would take many years of research and practice to properly handle healing spells. There were rumors in the Undercity that until a year ago there was still a healer in the Upper City who belonged to the knights and the king, but the girl had never seen him. When she went to the Upper City, which was quite rare because her grandparents had forbidden her to do so, she had to be careful not to be seen, and could never get to the royal castle. She often helped her grandfather at the market though, but he stood directly by the staircase from the Undercity to the Upper City, and therefore she could not see much of the Upper City. Cheyenne was stunned and with the best will in the world could not imagine that she just had one of those highly intelligent, rare human healers in front of her. She just couldn't understand how someone who called her Angel and Sweetie was one of the smartest people in the world, and that she just met one like that in the village. It was incomprehensible to her that he did not even want money for his healing arts.